Oh, maybe, yeah. But yeah, there are a few people in my neighborhood that had those, and
It's like as tall as the house.
yeah, pretty much. A
Well,
little
a
bit taller,
one-story house.
actually.
So, want to ask you, since we're so close to Halloween, what is your favorite Halloween candy or regular candy? I'll take either one.
I mean, whenever we do Halloween, I'd always go for, you know, the Reese's cups or something like that, like when we get our Halloween candy bag, right? But one of the candies that people always shit on that I really like
Uh-oh, you better choose your words carefully.
are those you know, do you remember those peanut butter taffies? They're wrapped in the orange or black wax paper.
Oh, yeah.
And they would have like a little chunk of like peanut butter in the middle.
Right.
I used to love those.
They just kind of melt in your mouth, right? Like you chew it and it's kind of getting stuck in your teeth and everything.
Yeah. I mean, they're taffies. They're sticky. They're taffies, you know. But people always shit on those, and I used to love those.
You know, funny thing is, because I feel like I have my weird candy unpopular opinions, but I guess before we get into my candy, was it only Reese's cups that you kind of go for, and the taffy, or are there any
Oh no,
others?
I'd go for the other chocolates too, of course.
Any chocolates, really?
Yeah.
Even just like the plain like Hershey's?
Oh, I love the plain Hershey's. I think in my bag, the last one that would be there would be the Milky Way, but even then, like, if I want chocolate, I will eat the Milky Ways or the Three Musketeers.
If it gets desperate.
Pretty much. Once everything else is gone. But, you know, I also like, you know, the Hershey's brand ones, like the Mr. Goodbar and the
Nice.
Crackles.
Yeah, which is basically Crunch, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crackle. The Crackles are just tougher to find. I feel like you never find them by themselves. They're always mixed in with Mr. Good bars and stuff.
Yeah, I think you can only get them like that. I've never seen them by themselves.
Right. It's funny you bring up Mr. Goodbar because that is currently my top favorite candy right now. I don't know what it is about just the regular chocolate and crushed peanuts, but man, that combo is just classic, and
it is.
You can't really go wrong with it.
Unless you're allergic to peanuts, of course.
I mean, if there are no Mr. Good bars, I'll always go for Whoppers or Reese's Cups myself. So
yeah,
I mean, Snickers that's always a safe bet.
Oh, you know what else is good? 100 Grand.
Really? So that's
I love those.
the rice and caramel, right?
Yes. Oh man, those are so good.
Growing up, I felt like every year I had a different phase. So it's like 1 year, 100 Grand, another year, Babe Ruth, you know, like the next year, Snickers. I felt like every year, for whatever reason, I was just all about one candy, Kit Kats, whatever, you know, and it was like only that. But it got to the point where by the time the next year rolled around, I was completely sick of it. So it's like now I hate Kit Kats now. It's kind of weird. Like it's just really
making
plain.
My mouth water.
Getting hungry. So I also wanted to tell you a little story. I came up with a horror movie idea, and I wanted to pitch it to you, see what you think of it.
Okay.
So I kind of envision it as being maybe like dark comedy, a little satirical, perhaps. But the concept is, there's probably already something out there like this, but it was funny because I just randomly thought of this movie and told it to Brenda, and she thought it was hilarious. So I picture it being kind of satirical, but not overly campy, like scary movie. The concept is this guy is cursed. I just feel like it's funnier with a male protagonist, but this guy has been cursed recently with various objects, various shapes and sizes and girths, trying to fall into his ass. It's trying to penetrate him constantly. Think of like Final Destination. You know how like all these things will kind of like a domino effect, and then it'll be like a broom falls over, and then like something like pushes him back. Or something. Yeah, and then he's always like constantly narrowly escaping penetration somehow. And then I was thinking, perfect, final penetration.
Oh my god.
Would you go see that?
I don't know. I feel like it'd be hilarious. I would definitely see it if you made it.
I think what would make it even funnier is like instead of it trying to be funny, if like it was pretending to take itself too serious.
Yeah.
It's like this comical setting that's like over the top ridiculous, but like it's still pretending to be a serious movie.
Yeah. But it's obviously
Final Penetration. It sounds a little erotic though, now that I think about it.
it's
It
like
sounds like a
the
porno.
porn version of Final Destination.
Yeah, I think you're right. That name might already be taken. Damn it.
And it's basically the concept of your movie, except it's a penis trying to
Right,
penetrate a
exactly.
woman.
There actually is like plenty of penetration going on. Damn it, they stole my idea. Oh well. So, Steph and I had a little idea that we thought would be kind of fun. Instead of me doing the intro for this episode, we were thinking, hey, we'll change it up and have Steph do it this time. So, should we get into it?
Yeah, here we go. Welcome to Aflixionados Podcast, episode 17. My name is Stephanie, and the other voice occupying your head this time is my brother, Eric.
How you doing?
Thank you to all of the listeners out there for joining us. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the major podcast streaming services. New episodes drop on the first Saturday of each month, 5 a.m. Pacific. Aflixionados is a monthly podcast where we mainly talk about films that range from mind-numbing to mind-blowing. We also sometimes cover TV shows or other forms of media. Needless to say, we'll be getting into spoilers here, and there will be only the healthiest amount of expletives tossed in, like a good vegetable soup. You have been warmed. Warmed. You have been warmed.
I like it.
I know. It fits my little soup analogy.
You're throwing your little flair into it. I like
know,
it.
right? If you ain't ready, then get ready, because in this episode, we will be discussing the found footage horror film Paranormal Activity.
Nice job. I like it.
Thanks.
See, isn't that fun? That's what I get to do every time.
that was fun. Yeah. So you mean as if like somebody found the footage? That's what it means.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's basically like footage that has been made, and then someone just uncovers it, and then
right.
basically the audience watching the movie is like us seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
Today's episode, Paranormal Activity, directed by Oren Peli, was originally screened in film festivals in 2007, but would later be released in theaters in 2009. So I wanted to kind of clear that up. It was technically in theaters in 2009, but I think something that a lot of people didn't know was that it actually was first shown in 2007. So that's how old that movie was.
With a completely different ending.
Exactly. And pretty short, like how we're saying, right?
Yeah.
The runtime is, what, like 90 minutes? 86 minutes?
I think so.
Just short of an hour 30.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, movies around like 2 hours, I think, is more of the average. An hour 30
nowadays,
is kind of like the shortest you can go.
I feel like that was like the 90s standard, but yeah, nowadays 2 hours is the standard.
Too much going on, too much CGI they have to fit in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, director Oren Peli has worked on all of the Paranormal Activity films in some capacity, along with such films as the Insidious series, Chernobyl Diaries, which was pretty good, The Bay, The Lords of Salem, and even a horror TV show called The River, which I've never heard of.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't think it did too well when I looked it up. But he has actually only directed 2 films in his career. The first, Paranormal Activity, which we're covering today, and the straight-to-video film called Area 51, which is, you can probably guess what that's about. Spoiler alert, aliens! So both of the films that he directed, Paranormal and Area 51, they have pretty generic sounding titles, in my opinion. Right? When you really think about it. Like, this movie is just called Paranormal Activity.
Paranormal Activity.
That's about as generic as you can get, Yeah. And then
it's just like calling it a ghost movie.
Basically. And then it's like, well, if we're going to do an alien movie, what should we call it? Area 51. Boom. Done.
The place where the ghosts are, or the place where the aliens are hidden.
For paranormal, at least, I feel like it kind of works for it. Like, it kind of went with the vibe of the movie because you didn't really know much about it going in. It gets straight to the point. You kind of know what the movie is going to be about, and it kind of has this mystique about it. Like, there isn't much else to go off of, and you're like, okay, well, let's try it out. Yeah, and that was basically like my mentality going in. I was just like, I don't know anything about it. Looks scary. Let's try it out.
If I recall correctly, for once, this is one that we didn't see together. Some people thought it was lame because there wasn't actually that much going on, and it was all done with the handheld camera or whatever. But you thought it was great, and I thought it was great, and then we came together and talked about it, and we both realized we thought it was great.
I thought we did see it together. I could have sworn.
I think we saw two together because of our mutual like of one. I feel like.
Yeah, I think after this one, I was definitely all in.
Yeah, I saw 3 in the drive-in, I think, with Andrew, and that one was not
Not that
as
great.
good. Yeah.
No, I think they gradually got worse.
And then I never saw 4. I didn't even know there was a 4 actually until today.
Oh, there's more than that.
There's more?
There's like little spin-offs. Yeah, there's
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it's like the marked ones and Ghost Dimension or something like that.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It gets pretty ridiculous. But we're not talking about those. We're talking about the first one, which is the best one.
The first one. That's right.
So this movie was also the definition of low budget in the sense that it only cost $230,000 to make.
$1,000? I was gonna say $230.
It was just a camera. They already had the house. It ended up grossing $193 million.
Wow.
When it was all said and done.
That is a huge profit.
And to me, it really didn't feel low budget. Like, I don't know, the way that they carried themselves throughout the movie and the way they decided to shoot it, I felt like it was trying to seem lower budget than what it actually was. But I felt like the production and everything, the direction was pretty damn good.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you hear that in the background, but that is my baby. I actually looked into a little bit, and it sounds like when they did casting and stuff, they found Katie and Mika, and they had them read separately, and then they liked them, so they put them together. And they a lot of the movie is kind of improv. Like he kind of went and told them like, hey, this is what you're gonna be talking about, kind of thing, and then just have a conversation.
Minimal directing.
Yeah, and they did so well doing that together. They had such a chemistry. You would have thought that they'd known each other for years already. And so that's why they casted the two of them. And another plus is that Mika already used to be a cameraman. And so since he was doing a lot of the camera handling,
I never
he
knew
already
that.
he already had experience being a cameraman. So that's another reason, another plus. And so he was able to, he knew what to do. He knew how to handle it, where to point it, and and to get the effect that they want and whatnot. And so, but obviously, yeah, it's also his character holding a handheld home video camera. So
right, yeah, he's basically the only one that ever handles the camera.
Yeah, she holds it a couple times. He'll be like, "Oh, here, hold this" or something. Yeah.
30 seconds.
I know when he goes into the attic, she holds it, and then I feel like there's like one other time at least that she holds it. But
I was surprised by the actors though in this movie because there were like no names coming into this movie. I hadn't seen them in anything. I thought, and I think it was cool too because that adds to the realism of the movie.
Yeah,
because you think that these are actual people living in this real house, and this is really happening.
How I feel. That's kind of how I feel about for example, the Marvel movies, the MCU movies. I like it when they cast no names because then it feels like they're just that character and they've only ever been that character. You know what I mean?
I almost feel like that might work against
having
them,
a big name. I know, because then they're typecast for the rest of them.
Once they're done, yeah, they're typecast. All you're ever going to be is this character.
Maybe not. It depends on how good they are, right? But it's cool that they cast no names so that it adds to the realism of the film. What's not cool is that there's still no names.
And I will definitely get into that in a little bit because I have something to say about that. But needless to say, this was a huge success coming in, and I think it's actually considered to be one of, or if not the most profitable film ever made because it was made with like pennies, basically.
Yeah, $230.
And the cool thing is, it played the dark horse, and it actually beat out Saw 6.
Wow.
Which is an already established franchise.
Yeah, franchise. But I mean, if you're getting to number 6, they can't be that good. I mean, people obviously like them if it's getting to number 6. They're going to have Fast and Furious movies forever, it seems, but...
No, I think hopefully it's going to be ending soon, but they're going to split the last movie.
No, I said that after, like, 4. And then we'll be like, Fast and the Furious, the final fastening. I don't know.
Fasten your seatbelts. Haven't I been doing that already?
Yeah.
But with Paranormal Activity going up against Saw 6, I felt like that showed two things. So, one, Paranormal, it just kept drawing more and more audience members over time, which is kind of interesting because it didn't open that well, but
Yeah.
the longer it stayed in theaters, I think there was a good word of mouth, and then the crowd just kept doubling and doubling and doubling. And that's how it was eventually able to overtake Saw
Yeah, I
6.
feel like that was a very interesting and very unique point in this movie is that, it looked. I don't think you could really make a good trailer about it. Like I think like a lot of the trailers were those ones where it shows the audience reaction, getting all scared,
Pretty
and
much.
and uh and so it looked kind of lame. So a lot of this movie's popularity came from word of mouth, which is so unique.
I actually got a lot of my friends to go see it because I was like, bro, you have to see this movie. And I was more curious to see their reactions
Hmm.
and see what their experience was like, what they thought of it. But the second point I wanted to make was that the Saw franchise, as you were saying, kind of ran its course and was actually waning in popularity. So I felt like it was just kind of the perfect storm.
Yeah.
It was the perfect handoff because now Saw was starting to just die off completely. I mean,
Hmm.
it did go on to make a few more movies after that, sadly. But
Did it
then
get to 8 or something?
Paranormal had its roots already planted, and then it started kind of doing the same thing and creating all these unnecessary sequels. I was actually just watching the trailer for Paranormal, and it was basically it's like a crowd like audience reaction,
That's what I'm saying. I remember that. I remember it.
and you just see like quick glimpses of like them in their bed, and they like kind of sit up and they're like looking at the doorway, and that's pretty much it.
Oh my goodness.
Pretty
See,
basic.
it looked lame.
But you know what? I think for me, I kind of had this morbid curiosity about it, and that's what got me in ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I at least had the idea that it was going to be, ghosty stuff, which is pretty
Always
much
creepy.
the only type, yeah, like the creepy ghosty stuff, which is the only type of the paranormal stuff, which is the only type of horror movie that I actually like. So I was interested.
Yeah, I definitely wanted a break from all those demon possession movies. Those are kind of a dime a dozen, and zombie movies. Sidebar, really quick. I was looking at the last couple episodes that we all recorded, and they've done pretty damn well. I don't know like what it is about it, but like I don't know if it's the subject matter or like the supplemental social media posts that we do along with it, but they did pretty damn well.
They haven't. I mean, I don't know where to find those stats, but
Like right out the gate, usually it kind of like builds and builds. But I felt like specifically with Casablanca, it was just like boom right out the gate.
wow.
Pretty cool. This is a hobby for us, right? And this
Yeah.
is a creative outlet for us. So
Yeah.
I feel like as soon as you start getting too serious, like too in the weeds
Oh
about like
yeah.
our metrics and how can we grow the audience and this and that, you're constantly just living and breathing this, then it just becomes work. So
Yeah, it's not fun anymore.
I kind of think of this like almost like a book club, but about movies.
That's exactly how I think about it actually. Like when I tell
Do they have movie clubs? I'm sure they do.
I don't. Well, I'm sure they do. Yeah, but yeah, as I'll I tell people like, oh, I'm about to go do a. It's basically a book club, but we do movies. I'm about to go talk about movies with my brother,
Hmm.
and we also record it and post it online.
Out of all of our episodes, which do you think is the least popular?
I actually think that probably our first one would be because
Toy Story?
I have okay, yeah, Toy Story because I was gonna say two different ones. First one I would say Toy Story because that was kind of our first go. It kind of went a little long for like we talked about it longer than the movie is. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah, I don't think we had that much of a pacing.
No, we didn't. And so yeah, that was kind of our first go. Like we were new to this and stuff. And the other one I would think that would be the least popular would probably be Game of Thrones actually because we're trying to pack so much. Not that it was
Interesting.
bad or anything. Not that it was bad, but I feel like we try to pack so much into one episode that it might be a little too much for somebody.
I'll tell you one thing.
Hmm.
If you're a real Game of Thrones fan, then there's never too much. I actually thought it was going to be Rent because one, it was like a bonus, so I don't think it really
Okay.
got that much time in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it too is it might be the subject matter. I don't know if a lot of people are necessarily into one musicals or what Rent is about
Right.
specifically.
Right.
Surprisingly, it was Donnie Darko.
I can see
Interesting,
that. I
right?
can see that. I mean, that because it's a cult classic. Like, it doesn't have a major like a huge, mainstream fan base like some of these other movies we're talking about. It's more of a cult classic. So I feel like it would have to reach those cult fans.
That same cult following was what allowed it to be brought back into theaters and do well later
Yeah,
on, right?
yeah.
So
Also, it's a weird ass movie. Let's be real. It's a
it
weird
is.
ass movie, and that I'm sure turns a lot of people off. Another guess would be any episode where I was too tired and I sound too monotone.
Gotta bring that energy.
I know. I was listening to some other episode and I was like, damn, I got to be more animated. All right, here I go.
I actually don't mind if Donnie Darko was our least popular episode because I kind of went into a little too much detail about my personal life in that one. So,
Oh, really?
a little bit of a therapy session. So, I mean, it just means that less people heard that. But anyway, getting back to the topic in hand, being Paranormal Activity, not Donnie Darko. People often compare Paranormal Activity to the Blair Witch Project, and I feel like that's a fair comparison.
I would say only because they're both, quote unquote handheld. You did the handheld thing. I've actually never seen Blair Witch because I get motion sick. And so
Mhm.
I was just kind of afraid that I was going to get motion sick.
I think you probably
So I
would.
just decided not to risk it. I did see Cloverfield though. I did get a little bit sick when I was watching Cloverfield, but every once in a while, just kind of close my eyes and take a break. Because I saw it in the theater. When I would see it on TV, it's not so bad. But I saw Cloverfield in the theater, and that made me a little motion sick.
Because you're more
Um,
immersed.
yeah, exactly. It's bigger. Yeah, you're more immersed. But even though, like I said, I've seen Cloverfield on TV and it didn't make me sick, I have not really had a huge interest in watching Blair Witch.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times. The first time I saw it, didn't like it, but everyone seemed to love that movie for whatever
I
reason. I
know.
don't know.
Just because I think it was because it was a new thing. It had never been done before.
Yeah, it was the pioneer of the mainstream found footage style.
Yeah.
And so, there's obviously the focus more on the unsteady camera work and downgraded handheld video and all that stuff, instead of the usual top-notch crisp visual style. I felt like they went too overboard with it. There were
Hmm.
times where the camera's like pointing down at the ground and it was just
Yeah.
violently shaking.
Yeah, because they're running, right? Or
I
something.
couldn't tell
Yeah.
what the hell was happening. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
In what way is this entertaining? This
Yeah.
sucks. I can't see anything.
Except to build suspense, I guess. But
That's why I never got into it. And it doesn't
yeah.
ever show anything. It's just like I remember the iconic shot from if you can call it that
The up the
iconic.
nose one.
Yeah, where it's like
Yeah.
super close to the face. It's the lens is practically like in their mouth and it's like looking up their nostril and you see snot coming down and they're just like, oh, I'm so scared.
Yeah.
That was the highlight of the movie. Literally nothing
Wow.
else memorable in the movie. So yeah, I don't think you really
So I'm not
missed
missing
much.
much. Yeah.
No. There's a reason why the found footage genre was kind of dead for several years is because
Uh huh.
what you were saying, like it's not everyone's cup of tea. People get motion sickness pretty easily.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I love my fair share of found footage films, but I don't want to be seeing that all the time. I feel like it takes away from
Yes.
the effect, if you're seeing it all the time.
Once in a while, specific content kind of thing. Like
Hmm.
it makes sense in the places it's been done. Like this movie, Paranormal Activity, obviously, and like I mentioned, Cloverfield was pretty good. I don't know how many others there are.
There are a few.
There's some that they're trying to make nowadays, or the one that's like that was supposed to be all filmed on the iPhone or something like that. I don't know if you saw.
That's the new trend. That's like the new found footage is when the whole thing is like the interface of the phone or like a webcam, like Skype or something.
Yeah.
That's the new style. I do want to say, I mean, shout out to Cloverfield. Thanks for bringing that up. And I felt like Cloverfield, at least in my opinion, that started the resurgence of the found footage film
Hmm.
or found footage genre. Even though Paranormal came out in 2007, Cloverfield actually hit theaters first in 2008.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Because I always remember in my mind, I was like, I always thought Cloverfield came first. Why is like IMDb saying it came out before Cloverfield? But then that made
That's
more
because
sense.
it was the film festival thing, right?
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
Paranormal came out at the film festivals, did okay or whatever, and then eventually it came around to Paramount, was it?
Paramount, I believe, yeah, and I think they were just waiting for someone to pick it up and release it in theaters, and so
Yeah,
eventually Paramount finally picked it up.
they wanted to refilm the whole thing. They wanted to refilm the whole thing with regular, like a regular movie without the
Oh,
whole
I didn't know that.
handheld film thing. Yeah,
I knew that they reshot like a good chunk of the movie. I didn't know that they wanted to do the whole thing.
yeah, they wanted to just redo it like a regular movie, but then I think they did like a test viewing or something like that, and it was
Hmm.
getting it was they realized that it needed to stay the way it was to make the impact that they were trying to make. So
Mm,
yeah, they decided to scrap that idea. The only thing is that they obviously changed the ending,
right.
and they added the one little tiny piece of CGI that was at the very end when her face changes
That was what cost half the budget right there.
of the $230.
Yeah. So, how'd you think of the presentation? Like coming in, the very first thing you see is like the text, and it's saying it takes place in San Diego, and I like the presentation of like this is basically almost like law enforcement footage that is
Yeah,
being shown to you.
yeah, it's like
Like
evidence
this was
footage.
recovered, yeah, as evidence. I thought that was a cool take on it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Again, it makes it seem more real, which is I think what makes it so scary. Despite what goes on in the movie isn't super crazy or anything like that, but because it seems so real, any of the stuff happening in the movie, if that happened to me, I would be
Hell no,
out. Yep,
that's a fat nope.
yep. And who sleeps with their freaking bedroom door open?
We actually do. I feel like it makes the room cooler.
I was watching this whole movie like close that door, close that door, close the door. I don't know, maybe because I live in a house of 6 people, but
During the winter time, I will close the door
yeah,
because when you compartmentalize, it's easier to heat, right? So
yeah.
that's when you do the opposite, and it's like you try to like close as many doors as possible.
Or maybe I don't want the rest of the house to hear me snore. I don't know, but yeah, I keep my door closed when I'm sleeping.
Can they still hear it through the walls though?
Probably.
What's that rattling? Like the pictures on the walls are shaking.
Andrew's a sensitive sleeper, so he wouldn't be able to take that.
Oh,
Like if I
gotcha.
if I get
Yeah.
too loud, he'll like go sleep somewhere else.
So we're introduced to the two principal characters, Katie, played by Katie Featherston, and her fiance, Mika, played by Mika Sloat.
I gotta say though, they were only engaged to be engaged.
Oh, were they?
So
So they were never actually engaged?
no,
Oh,
he
okay.
mentioned it. He said we're engaged to be engaged once she's done with
Mm,
school.
that's good to know. It was weird hearing his name pronounced like that because I'm used to it being Micah.
Yeah, I know. Every time I would see it, because I was watching it with the captions. Every time I would see it on the screen, in my head, it's always Micah, and then she would be like Mika, and I'm like, no, no,
No,
what?
you stop saying that. You're wrong.
I know
I wonder why they decided to use their real names. Do you think that made it more realistic?
a little bit, yeah, but I
Or do they
mean,
just look like that? Like Katie just looks like a Katie.
because they did it with everyone. When I looked at the credits, they did it with everyone except one person. I think the person, the maybe it was the person's image that they used for the Diane person that they found on the website. I think might have been somebody else, but everybody used their actual names for this movie. And maybe it was to add more of that sense of realism to it. And then
Sure, yeah. Like
we're
this
gonna find
really
out that
happened to him.
we're gonna find out that the girl who played her sister is really her sister or something.
Actually, that was a little immersion breaking for me because I had seen her in something before. I think she was in
Oh
like
really?
CSI. Yeah,
Oh,
and then
interesting.
so she popped up in this. So I was like, "You're not really her sister. I know
No,
you."
it's just that her sister is an actress.
Yeah, maybe an acting family. Yeah, I could see it.
I mean, they are in Southern California, so
I actually thought that neighborhood looked really nice in San
it
Diego.
did. Yeah,
I don't know if it was actually filmed in San Diego, but it looked like it.
I know. A nice little suburb.
So the movie early on, it starts off by mentioning that sometimes, told by Katie, she reveals that the strange events happen randomly around her and seem to be kind of picking up more and more lately. So Mika decides to set up a camera in the bedroom where he can dismount and carry it with him as needed, and capture whatever evidence. or lack thereof that he can. So he starts off as like it's the stereotypical like skeptical significant other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gives a lot of pushback, doesn't really support her, and makes fun of her and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
she's legitimately scared, and she tries to plead with him, and he's just like, you're dumb, you're overreacting.
Yeah, and even at the beginning, she's obviously scared, but I think she's not too scared yet because it's never gotten this bad. And honestly, I feel like Mika is the one that's making it worse.
You feel like he's antagonizing the
Obviously,
spirit.
I know that her house burned down at some point and everything, but I don't think it's ever been. I mean, according to what she says, I don't think it's ever been quite this bad until Mika's constantly like, "I'm gonna take care of it. I'm gonna take care of it. I'm gonna take care of it."
Mm-hmm. Did you find yourself getting annoyed by Mika?
Yes.
Can you stop? Can you just not?
Yeah, I'm like, he doesn't know. He's not a professional. He doesn't know anything about this stuff. Every time he does something, it gets worse afterwards, and he insists that he can take care of it. I'm like, you're obviously not taking care of it, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Why do you think that Katie allowed it though? Because she obviously has way more experience with this thing. Do you think she developed some sort of technique as well to kind of like block it out, not think about it, and then eventually kind of like goes away for a while?
I think so. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she was hoping that he was right. Maybe she was hoping that he really would figure something out that would work, or maybe she was just feeling pressured. And she probably didn't want to sound crazy either. She didn't want to sound too crazy.
Like I'm kind of thinking that maybe she's just so tired of dealing with this by herself for so long
Oh
that
yeah.
she was almost relieved to at least have someone that's willing to help, because I feel like everyone else is either going to downplay it or
Or
just
think she's crazy.
yeah, like jump to conclusions almost, and
Yeah.
it's like no one's really going to listen to her. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe she felt that like, okay, even though he's kind of making fun of it, he's at least trying to help and try to do something, and who knows, it actually might help. So let's give it a
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
Almost forgot. Did any weird shit happen to you while you're watching this movie?
Yes.
Because I had some weird shit happen to me, but I'll let you go first.
So I was actually watching this movie at work. So like, what are the chances of anything weird happening at work, right?
Well, it's a creepy
And
hospital.
it's a very well lit, very loud, busy lab. Um, so I'm watching it at work on my phone. It's kind of slow at work, whatever. And my computer screen goes black. That's not the weird part though. It goes black as it's transitioning into screensaver. So sometimes it'll just go straight into screensaver, no big deal. Sometimes it'll go black and then transition to screensaver, so also no big deal. But it goes black, and all of a sudden it just flashes white at me, and it startled me because it's like right in my face.
Was it also while you're like at a really creepy scene in the movie, and it was just
Yeah,
perfectly timed?
it was the Ouija board scene. So they set up the Ouija, or Mika sets up the Ouija board. Katie gets pissed. They leave, and then you hear the footsteps approaching the Ouija board,
Oh,
and
hell
then
no.
the screen flashes in my face, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And then like the little bushes start moving, the little plant starts moving in the movie,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just like, "Oh my god, it's here!" So it wasn't that crazy,
Yeah.
but it still startled the crap out of me because
Were you
it
embarrassed? Like,
was
did you look
not.
around to see if anyone saw you?
Nah, no one was around me. But it was not. Yeah, it's not. It wasn't something that my computer usually does. It was out of place and creepy in context.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like if you're in that right state of mind, yeah, anything can startle you.
Yeah, exactly. The baby's back. My baby's crying. So yeah, what happened to you? That was creepy.
So this doesn't happen too often, but I think it just happened at the perfect time. And I have to be careful how I word this because otherwise it might go off again. But my Echo, or one of the Echo devices, actually started talking. It was kind of weird. So there was a scene where maybe they were arguing or they're just talking back and forth, and it thought it picked up like a trigger word or something. And so
Yeah.
it just started, it was like listening, and then it responded to whatever that scene was. And so as I was watching a movie, she just starts like talking, and I'm like, what the hell?
Oh man.
Yeah, sometimes she'll say these weird things, just totally unprovoked. Like there's no one said anything, and it'll just be like, I'm not sure. And you're like, what?
Creepy.
So it's just stuff like that. And I actually feel like that could be another good horror movie idea, someone communicating through these echo devices, or maybe the echo is the villain. It's almost like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I, Robot.
Yeah, it's funny that kind of like weird shit happened to both of us while watching this
Yeah,
movie.
that is hilarious.
Perfectly timed. But you know what? I'm all about it. I want to be fully immersed. So I think the best way to probably approach most of this movie is because most of the events happen at night. So I just feel like we can address it by like which
By
night
night,
we're currently on.
yeah,
Yeah. So we'll start off with night one. What happens in night one?
not a lot, just some footsteps.
It's cool because they're just setting the foundation, right?
Yeah.
So they're just doing some slightly creepy things, but they're not going to be showing you everything right out the gate. They're not showing you all the cards.
Oh, of course.
They're
And like
just
I
kind
said,
of
they
throwing little teasers out.
with Mika's provocation, it gets worse and worse as it goes
It
on.
just seems, yeah. And in night one, basically all that is shown is the camera catches some faint footstep sounds coming from the stairs just outside the bedroom, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
We also get most of the plot's foundation from Katie and Mika meeting with Dr. Fredericks, who's
Yes.
the psychic. So Dr. Fredericks explains that this may be a demon trying to reach out to Katie. And this was actually, yeah, I don't think they really thought about it until they listened to Dr. Fredericks. And he
Yeah.
also advises not to do anything further until consulting a demonologist, Dr. Johann Averies, whom he refers to.
I was gonna say which he shouldn't have said to Mika, because he obviously wants to do exactly the opposite of what Dr. Fredericks told him to do.
Right. Dr. Johann Averies is who Dr. Fredericks refers, but they don't immediately get to even reach out to Dr. Averies because, like you
Mika
said,
convinces Katie not to.
Mika isn't taking this seriously. Katie actually wants to call the demonologist ASAP, but Mika's like, you know what?
Let me handle it.
I think you're kind of blowing this out of proportion, and I think they ultimately compromise on let's try out my methods, and if they don't work, then we'll call the demonologist. But I don't think they knew that it was going to escalate. I think she was just like, okay, you try a couple different techniques or whatever. If you get any results, that's cool. If not, then we'll call the demonologist. And,
or if it gets worse. She said if it gets worse.
If it gets worse. Unfortunately for them, it does.
Yeah, just a little.
What happens in night 3?
The bedroom door moves a little bit. It closes a little bit, and then it opens back up a little bit.
It's getting exciting.
The door moved.
I mean, which was actually pretty creepy, like because it's not like it just like slightly like a breeze would have blown it over.
Yeah,
it strictly moved from like one place and then back to where it was before with intent.
I feel like the demon was testing his influence on our plane.
It's like he's getting better at it, right? Like the more he practices it.
Oh yeah, he definitely improves over time. And even a couple nights before the end, when just the sheet moves, he's just getting stronger and stronger, little by little.
Which, I mean, that doesn't sound like much, but it's like moving the sheets in the way, like with the finesse that it shows in the movie. Yeah. I feel like that's actually pretty difficult to do without waking someone creepy. Up.
Yeah, he reveals the foot that he will use to drag her later.
And night 5, Katie wakes up in a panic and tells Mika that she heard whispers in her ear while sleeping. It's almost like he's not only is he testing like the physical boundaries, but it's like how well can he communicate with Katie as well.
Yeah, it seems like he's testing his boundaries with her too, because as we see in the future that he tries possessing her a couple times.
Mm-hmm. I wonder though, so do you think that the more worried and kind of obsessed you get with something, the more susceptible you are to it? Like the more that you're gonna believe it, and then the more that you believe it, the more you're gonna open the door for something to come in.
Whether that, or if he was just wearing her down and that made her more susceptible, more vulnerable to him. She definitely was getting more vulnerable to him,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Mika does some experimenting with a microphone. Was this a little annoying to you as well? Because he's just obviously, he's like kind of making fun of it and kind of like poking and prodding while he's like recording audio.
Yeah, it's annoying, but I mean, he also did get a result out of it, so that was kind of cool.
He did, yeah. He does it ever explain what he does for a living? Because he kind of had like a pretty
She said he's a
dope
day
setup.
trader, so he basically deals in stocks,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yeah, and so I feel like he had a pretty legit setup, you know, and
Yeah,
he knew his way around a computer. He had like all this editing software, whatever apps he needed to be able
yeah.
to upload the videos and edit them, review the audio. He records in the bedroom, and he's kind of like doing a survey around the room, you know, pointing the microphone in different corners, asking different questions. And obviously he doesn't hear anything immediately, but then when he goes back down to the computer and uploads it and reviews the audio, then he realizes that there was, I don't know if it was a response
It sounded
necessarily,
like a response.
but it was like it seemed like a response.
Do you remember the question that the demon responded to? Do you remember?
I don't
I don't
remember.
remember.
I think he said like, "What's your favorite color?" or something, something dumb like
No, it was
that.
no. He asked if the demon wanted him to get a Ouija board.
Oh, is that what he asked him?
I believe so, and then that was the one that he responded to, and so that was where he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a Ouija board," then kind of
I
thing.
always thought that was just random. Okay, I
And
didn't
so
pick up on it.
that he obviously, it seems like he was responding that he wanted him to get a Ouija board.
Well, then we get to night 13, lucky number
They
13.
go like a week without anything happening. So
Hmm.
what's a?
So it's not every night.
I think
It's
this is the
seemingly random.
biggest. This is the biggest gap though.
Oh, was it? So after
Yeah,
this, it picks
because
up
it was
rapidly.
1, 3, 5, and then suddenly 13, then 15, 17, 19, 20, 20.
You're
So
right, because it only goes up to 21 nights. So
yeah,
okay, so 13, lucky number 13 is this one's a doozy. This one was
it
pretty
sure is.
crazy. So what happens in this one?
It seems like he was well, I don't know what he was trying to do. I mean, my only guess is that he's again like testing his strength or something. So at some point, there's a huge screech, a loud bang. They wake up obviously, and Micah, see, Mika
Yeah.
grabs the camera, and they see like the chandelier swinging, so like shook the whole house.
Did it sound like something it could have been mistaken for something? Or it
Well, not the
sounded
screech.
pretty.
The screech part, yeah, it was creepy. But I'm wondering if he like dropped a couch or something. I don't know. I think Mika actually suggested like, what did he lift the couch and drop it or something? And I was like, maybe.
Cause it's like, yeah, well, like
It
what
was
the hell
huge. It was a big
was
bang, yeah.
touching the chandelier to get it to move, or
Yeah,
maybe it could have
or
just
shook the house enough.
maybe he was phasing into our world like Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah,
And then when it shut him
little
back
by
out, he
little.
just yelled out in frustration. The couple, they're awakened by this like demonic sounding screech thing, right? And this thing was freaking unsettling. Like
Yes, it was.
that like guttural whatever sound. This thing sounded like not of this world, otherworldly for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
You couldn't really blame it on like creaking pipes or anything like that. Would you go downstairs after hearing some shit like that? Fuck that. Now it's time to close the
I
door and lock it.
I would probably make Andrew go though.
You would? Go check it out.
I know. Well, I mean, with the stuff that's happening, nothing's too crazy yet. I would probably think like, when they first start hearing noises and it turns out being the ice machine or whatever, and like stuff like that, I probably would have thought it was, a rat or a raccoon on the roof or something like that, which I have experienced before.
We kind of try to make ourselves feel better by coming up with some sort of explanation for it, even though it doesn't make any sense. It could have been maybe a jet engine falling out of the sky. Who knows?
Yeah,
Could be
yeah,
anything.
into somebody's bedroom. Yeah, exactly. Um,
I do remember specifically thinking though, and again, like I thought this watching the scene was, oh, this is getting juicy now. Like this
yeah,
is it's
exactly.
starting to pick up.
Yep,
And
yeah.
I was getting
So
excited, but I was also nervous. Like I knew this was happening, and I had the audio on, kind of loud and everything, and so
yeah,
I was like fully immersed. And when that sound and the bang and all that happened, I was pretty nervous myself.
your heart was thumping. And so keeping in mind that at this point Mika has brought up getting a Ouija board. No, and she makes him promise that he is not going to buy a Ouija board. She tries to follow Dr. Frederick's advice and not provoke
I
this
don't even think
thing.
this is where they get the Ouija board yet. I think there's one
No,
more
no,
night.
but I just want to point out that
Oh,
they've
okay.
had this discussion
Hmm.
and that she has shot it down and literally made him promise that he will not go out and buy a Ouija board.
Right. But the thing is, like, he gets around it by saying like, "Oh, I found it. I didn't
No,
buy
he
it.
said he borrowed it.
Borrowed it." Yeah.
He borrowed it. Okay. So night 15, Katie gets out of bed, stands there watching from her side of the bed, stands there watching Mika for literally 2 hours.
It seems like she's watching, but she's in like a sleepwalking state, right?
Yeah. So, but she just stands there over him for a couple hours. Goes downstairs. He eventually wakes up and goes down there and finds her outside. And this is where it gets fun though. This is the first time that the demon is seemingly possessing her because he is talking to her and she's just like, "No, I want to be out here. Leave me alone." And her voice is kind of like, "No, just leave me alone."
Trying to sound like sweet and delicate.
Or just that she's out of it, you know?
It didn't sound natural. Yeah.
No,
Like
it doesn't
that
sound
was the
natural.
thing.
Yeah, it doesn't sound natural. And so he's like, "Well, if you're going to stay out here, then I'm going to go get some blankets." He goes in there to get some blankets. Here's some stuff going on upstairs. The TV turns on. It's like full blast on, static. So he goes up there to investigate that.
White noise is always creepy, by the way.
Yeah. Turns around and Katie's right there. And then she's like, "What's going on?" Like she finally comes to, "What's going on?"
I actually loved how they did this because they were toying with the jump scare for a little bit there because he comes downstairs, he's walking through the house, there's no sign of Katie anywhere. So we're seeing it from the point of view of the camera. He's like glancing in the kitchen, nothing in the living room, but then he sees that the sliding door leading outside to the backyard is open. So he's like sticking the camera through the curtains, and I was expecting something to be right there, waiting for him.
Yeah.
But no, he just finds Katie just chilling on the little like patio swing and slowly, cautiously checking upstairs. He's like looking around and he's like, "Oh, that was weird. The TV just turned on its own." And then when he turns around, man, and it's just like, she's like, her face is taking up the full frame. She doesn't even like scream or anything, it's just like, bam. Yeah, that definitely made me kind of tense up in the theater. I remember watching it. So this is the only movie I've actually seen in theaters 3 different times, and I saw it with 3 different groups, and I felt like each time I went I was still nervous. I was still like tense watching the movie, but it was so much fun. Like I had such a blast the first time. I think I saw it first with Brenda, and then I thought I saw it second time with you, but I guess I saw it with
could have been. I could be completely wrong. I mean, my memory ain't that great.
I thought it was like you and like some of your friends. And then the third time I actually saw it with Skylar and a couple of our friends. Oh, okay. And it was it was so fun. I still remember when I saw it with my group of friends. One of them, he was most of the movie, he was just covering his eyes. He was like, "Oh, fuck the bullshit, fuck the bullshit." Like he was just like, he was super scared. Yeah, it was so much fun.
That's hilarious. So then, nothing comes of that really, and then they go to bed. But obviously that was creepy because she doesn't remember, talking to him outside. So was she just talking in her sleep or was she possessed? Who knows?
And they even look at the footage and she's just like, "I don't remember any of this." From where she remembers is when she's standing right behind him and he's like, "Whoa, what the hell?" And so I guess that's when she snaps out of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, with all this shit happening, could you go back to sleep? I'd be too freaked out.
Well, I mean, at some point they can't, so that they start losing a lot of sleep and get real tired. But I wouldn't just be like, after that, like because she doesn't know what happened, so she's just like, "Oh, come back to bed." And Mika's like, no. But yeah, I guess this is the same day, right? And I think this is my favorite part. I want to say
the Ouija board.
Yeah, because it's just like, I mean, there's no way to explain this. No way to explain this. Can't be like, "Oh, the wind," or
There was wind too. It was like wind in the house with everything closed. So it's like, where the hell
exactly.
Did that come from?
So he pops out. So I guess they're going on a date night. They're getting ready to leave. He pops out.
Assume like, yeah.
Yeah, he pops out with the Ouija board that he borrows. She gets pissed, obviously, and she's like,
"Did he honestly think that was going to be a pleasant surprise?"
Right? And so he's like, "Oh, we have 10 minutes before we have to go. Let's just do this real quick," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she flips out, obviously, and she's like, "I'm going whether you're coming with me or not." And so they leave. They leave. You wait a couple minutes. You hear some footsteps, and that was when my computer jump scared me.
Oh, the scene.
Yeah, and then you see the bushes move, like it's brushing by, and it's hitting the bushes, like it hits the little plant, their little potted tree.
Right.
And then it starts moving around the whatchamacallit, the cursor on the Ouija board.
Is that what it's called? I never knew what that little.
So I
thing
feel like
was.
yeah. And then the thing catches fire.
Spontaneously
combusts. Yes.
What the hell?
What?
But it's only for a second. Like it's only for like 30 seconds.
No, Well, I mean, we don't know how long. I mean, obviously, it didn't burn down the house or anything like that, but it cuts to the next scene while it's still on fire.
Well,
so you don't actually know how long it goes.
I don't think it fast forwards though. I think it just
it just cuts out.
it stays on until it burns out.
No, it cuts out in the middle because I was watching. I was like, does it go out? Like I was paying attention. I was like, does it go out on its own or what? And it cut out while it was still on fire. So you assume that it just went out on its own, but you don't see it.
And Mika's like super fascinated by this because it's like not only did all this, he captured all this on video. So he's like watching that and he's like, whoa, what the hell? So then he goes and checks out the Ouija board and there's like weird markings on it. Like it's not burnt, but there's like weird like white marks on it.
It's like sparkly. I don't know, it's weird. But here's the thing that gets me though. At this point, it's obviously getting worse. You cannot deny that it's getting worse. The thing caught fire on its own. It's getting worse. And yet Mika's like, I can handle it.
They have a fire extinguisher. What's the worst that could happen? Do you think he showed that footage to Katie, or do you think he kind of kept it to himself?
No, he was trying to. He was like, something happened with the Ouija board. And she was like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, you know?
It almost became like this taboo subject where as soon as he brings up Ouija, she's just like, nope, stop. I don't want to hear it, you know? She wants nothing to do with that. So she never actually saw the footage, which I think that would have been like the last straw for her if she saw that. But this continues to go.
Yeah, because he takes it upon himself and tries to, watch the footage and see where the cursor moved and figure out what it was trying to say.
Kind of
decode. Comes up with several options, including the name Diane. Which
it does link to like a previous person, right? That they found on the internet.
Yeah. So they eventually he eventually finds somebody on the internet. And he's like, "Oh, I found something. We might be able to fix this or whatever." Which is so dumb because they find this person Diane, and the same thing happened to her 6 years ago. They call an exorcist, and she ends up freaking dying. So I don't know where out of this he figures out like
he's gonna help her.
this exact same stuff happened to her. Exactly. How is he gonna help her with this? Because they do nothing, it's still going on. They do something, it gets worse, and if they call an exorcist or something, they're gonna die. So
you might die.
Yeah. I don't know where he was thinking that he was gonna be able to help her with this.
They've probably seen the movie The Exorcist. Like that did not end well.
No, there was footage on the website of this Diane girl, and shows her like thrashing around, and like eventually she's just lying still, covered in blood.
But it doesn't actually show the process of the exorcism.
No.
Okay.
It just kind of shows her in bed. There's a little thrashing, and then And I think this is night 20 by that time.
I think almost, because we're about to reach 17.
Yeah. Oh, the baby powder. Oh, that was good too.
Yeah,
that was good too.
Night 17, Mika has the idea to sprinkle baby powder all over the hardwood floor. Basically, what he's trying to do is, which I don't know how this is really going to help, but he wants to capture footsteps. So he wants to see where they're coming from and where they're going to.
This isn't helping. He just wants proof, that, like, I mean, it seems like he's seen it. Like he did the thing with the Ouija board. He's seen it, but he still just wants to experiment some more and get more proof that it exists. Kind of.
I almost feel like it's kind of exciting for him. Like now that he sees it, he's like, "Whoa, this is really freaky. I want to see what other evidence I can find."
Yeah.
And it just continues to escalate.
Yep.
Man, I thought this was actually pretty creepy because it does capture footsteps. Apparently, it comes from like the upstairs hallway closet or something into their bedroom.
Where the attic entrance is.
Yeah.
So it looks like it seems like it hangs out in the attic.
And then when they show the shape of the foot, like the footprint, what does that look like to you?
I don't know, like a demon hoof thing.
It kind of looks like this like three-toed, like sharp toed or like clawed kind of foot thing. Almost like a chicken foot almost.
Like a Cloverfield alien. They're connected. I'm just kidding. Yeah, but like kind of like a chicken foot. Maybe it's just a big chicken.
It's a chocobo. It's a friendly chocobo.
If it was a chocobo, you would know because it wouldn't screech. It would go wookie woo.
The classic. I wish they actually would have kept that in the remake, but I get it. That was like a sound that you made with like the 16-bit soundboard or something, exactly. But so after they capture the footprints,
actually coming into the room and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, and they discover that the footprints are coming from the closet, and so they decide to go investigate. Yeah, that's also a nope for me. Like going up into the attic in the middle of the night.
It was a fairly clean attic though, so good for them.
Yeah, it looked like a pretty new house.
It wasn't like my my horror movie attic at my first house.
Was it bad?
That house used to have rats,
Ew.
and so it was just all rat poop up there. Anyway, yeah, he goes up there and finds a picture that was supposed to have burned down with her house when she was 13 or whatever.
And it's a picture of
Of
Katie as a
Katie,
child.
yes.
So this was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's an old picture, presumably lost in a fire, but apparently the demon snatched. It was burned around the edges, so the demon apparently snatched it before it was destroyed.
Interesting, like kept as like a trophy or something,
yeah.
a memento. Yeah. Wow. So I think they're kind of starting to allude that this really is the same entity that has been following her as a child.
And it obviously is focusing on Katie.
And now they're starting to link several things. You see the picture that's kind of burned around the edges. You see the Ouija board that went up in flames for a little bit. And then she mentions that her childhood home burned down randomly.
And no, they weren't able to figure out a cause of the fire. So I feel like the next day something finally happens during the day, and I want to say that was the time. Like, wasn't he like alone at some point? He was just kind of like going around all macho, like, "What do you want? What do you want? What do you want, motherfucker? What are you trying to do with us?" Kind of thing.
I think just randomly he's like trying to like provoke her or whatever for whatever reason, maybe get some sort of reaction out of it.
So then they hear a bang upstairs, and they have a framed picture on the wall, and the glass is smashed, and just Mika's face is scratched.
This looked like a threat to me, like straight up, like it's a picture of both Katie and Mika in it. It's just like a little like cute couple photo, and then only Mika's face is scratched. So I'm like, oh, he has a target on his back now, because this fool just keeps antagonizing this demon. So now it's taking notice, and it's kind of getting pissed from what it looks like.
Yeah.
So now he has a target on his back.
Definitely. And I hate to say it, but I feel like he kind of brought it upon himself. You know what I mean? Because
this is important to note, though, and let's not understate the fact that up until this point, all the events have been happening in the evening, and this is like the first time we've seen it happen during the day. So I'm like, now they don't even have the comfort and the safety of sunlight, the daytime. It's like, oh shit, now this is starting to bleed over into the day. It's not just nighttime, and they haven't been getting that much sleep. It's like they've been getting less and less sleep, and so they're starting to get exhausted, they're starting to get tired, they're still freaked out, and
they're getting weaker, it's getting stronger.
Yeah, exactly. It's like feeding off of their fear.
Definitely. And so they finally decide to call in Dr. Avery's.
Needless to say, it's time to bring in the demonologist, or so they try.
Yeah, they call Dr. Fredericks back because they're desperate. And I can't remember if it's this day or the next day, but he steps into the house and he's immediately like, nope, I can't be here.
He was a smart man. He got out of there while he still could.
Yeah, unfortunately, the whole hold up for the next couple days thing was not gonna happen.
Like, what the hell's that gonna do? Is that when Avery's was supposed to be back?
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He'll be back in a couple days. Just wait for a few more days,
That was after 17, and so
yeah, that was like 19, I want to say. So they didn't even.
Well, this was right before night, or this could have been.
It was either, I can't remember. It was either right before 19 or right after 19, or like the day of 19.
Actually, yeah, I think you're right. I think this was the day just before night 19. So I'm like, they only have a couple more days. They're not going to make it.
Yeah, exactly.
But this was so kind of disheartening for them, and discouraging, because it's like now they have no help. How they felt so alone after this, because they always kind of had that like safety net that they could always rely on, and now that was taken away completely.
And then even like they talked about leaving and stuff like that, but Katie mentions it's been following me, so it doesn't matter where I go, it's going to be there, even though they do decide to leave at some point. But
I remember when I was watching this, Brenda kept saying, she was like, just leave. Why are they still there? Just leave the house. But I was trying to explain to her that this followed her from her childhood home, and it seems like it's been anywhere she goes, it eventually shows back up. So I don't know if like running is really going to do much. It might buy you some time, maybe
it needs to, I don't know, get strong in the new house or something. But so night 19, it finally takes on a bit of a physical form in a shadow.
Ooh, creepy.
You see the shadow cross past the door.
It's kind of interesting too, because it's like the light has to hit some sort of solid surface to create a shadow. So it's like, how did it create the shadow?
Maybe it's not actually a shadow, but that's just
that's what it looked like. It's like a wraith or something, It's a Dementor.
Right. Either way, creepy. And then
Ooh.
it gets real juicy.
Night 20, I had an oh shit moment.
Oh, was it night 19 that yeah, nine is it night 19 that it also moves the sheet?
I think so. And then 20, for me, man, this was like, holy crap.
Yeah. They get in a physical confrontation with the demon.
I like how they were like easing into it, because the night before you're like, oh, he just like blows the sheet over, whatever, no big
Yeah.
deal. And then this time he
No
does
big
it
deal.
again, and you're just expecting to like stop there, but then you see her leg move, like something is moving her leg. It's not Katie that's doing it. And then so it like, while she's like still like almost like in the state of like waking up, she's pulled out of the bed, so she like flops onto the ground, and she's like super disoriented. And this was such a cool effect. I actually wonder how they did this. They like drag her down the hallway out the door,
Yeah,
and
all the way down the hall, and she's screaming for Mika, and he goes and runs after her,
Mika snaps awake.
and then goes and fights the thing. Like he goes down there and he's like yelling, "Let her go, let her go!" So he's obviously trying to like pull her away, and it's holding on.
But before that happens, doesn't he wakes up and he tries to go after, and doesn't it like slam the door in his face or something?
Oh yeah. And so he has to open the door and then go after her.
When that door slammed, I was like, she's fucked. She's done.
Right.
I thought for sure like there was gonna like the door was gonna be locked, and he's like, no.
I know, right? But yeah, then he goes down the hall and fights her back, and then they like stumble into the room, and I think they still leave the door open, which is beyond me. But then they kind of curl up onto the floor together, and she's crying and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was freaky. Holy shit. Yeah, like she straight up got like dragged away. For sure, you could not sleep after something like that. I almost felt like that would have been, I don't care where we're going. Like, let's just get in the car. Let's just drive somewhere away
Yeah,
from here. Screw that. Yeah, that was one of the best parts of the movie.
definitely. Yeah. So the next day, that's what they decide to do. They decide to leave, and she's 100% ready to go. He's 100% ready to go. He packs up the car, ready to go, and then
But they reveal something too, because she's really exhausted. She's like on the couch, and she's not really feeling herself, right? Like she seems really weak. She's just like, oh, I got like something on my back, and she reveals that there's like a bite
that's
mark.
right. How did I forget that? Yeah, she got bit by this thing.
There's like a creepy like bite mark on her back.
It just looks like a bunch of puncture marks. Like it doesn't look. I mean, it doesn't look like a human tooth mark bite or anything. It's just like a bunch of puncture marks in the shape of a mouth, and then it's all bruised up. It looks bad. It was gross.
Fuck? This thing was like trying to eat her.
Maybe they're trying to drag her away by its, I don't know, poison her, mark her. I don't know.
And then not long after that, he like goes upstairs to like pack or something, and he comes back, and now Katie's in the kitchen or something, or she's like sitting on the floor, and he sees that she's like gripping this crucifix.
Oh yeah,
she has like this death grip on it, and so he eventually pries it
her
out.
hand open. Yeah, she's like catatonic at that point. She pries her hand open, and it's bloody.
Well, I don't know if she's catatonic. She's like unconscious or something, right? I think her head is just drooping down, and so he's like trying to wake her up. He's like, "What the hell?"
Exactly. So he pries her hand open, and it's filled with blood, and he's like trying to wake her up, and she's not waking up, and then he's like, he runs and goes and grabs a paper towel, and he's like, "I'm so done with this bullshit," kind of thing. And so like he's over it, And
imagine how scared he is, seeing stuff like that, because it's like not only are both of them feel alone, but it's like now he feels like Katie's slipping away too, and he's the only one that's left.
Yeah. And so he like she's resting in bed, and he's like, "I got the car packed, ready to go." And that's when she's like, "I want to stay." And then at the end, she says something like, "Oh, I have a feeling we're gonna be okay," or something like that. Yeah. And then her voice,
it kind of has almost like two tones.
It's a double voice. Yeah. So you're like, "Oh shit!" Like she was possessed.
Well, he didn't. I think the audience is the only one that hears it, but like Mika doesn't pick up on that, right? So he's just like,
no, because he walks. Yeah, he's like, "All right, whatever," and he walks away, and then she says it when she's alone, so we only hear it. The camera only hears it.
That's right. And then she has this like faint smile on her face too. She's like smiling.
Yeah, and she looks all content, and she closes her eyes and smiles. It's super creepy.
Oh man! And then this gets into the climax of the movie, Night 21. So this signifies the end of the movie, and has a couple different endings depending on which version was seen. And the version that we saw was the theatrical ending.
Yes.
And this is the first ending that I saw. not the original. I didn't realize that when this movie first came out in 2007, it had an entirely different ending. So how does the theatrical ending go?
She gets up at some point, goes to his side of the bed, and then stands over him for 2 hours again.
She's like closer to him this time too, right? She's like actually on his side of the bed.
Yeah. This time she actually goes to his side of the bed and stands over him for 2 hours.
Really quick, have you seen any creepy things from your kids? Like, have you woken up with like them staring at you while you're sleeping or anything like that?
Yes, and it is super creepy, but they're usually there for a reason. Like Julian will come in,
I'm
and
hungry.
he'll just kind of be like, "Yeah," he'll be like, I need to pee."
Oh, okay. What if you wake up and they're just like, "There's a man in my room," something
Yeah,
like that.
that would be a no. That would be a pretty hard no. I would eat them right out.
It sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah, be like, go deal with it. Bye. Yeah. So then he goes. So then she goes downstairs, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she just screams, at the top of her lungs, "Mika!"
From downstairs, yeah.
Yeah, from downstairs. So he gets up, runs downstairs, and then she's screaming, he's screaming. You hear some struggle, some thumping, and then it just goes completely silent.
This scream too, man. This thing, she had like this like guttural scream as well. Like I don't know how she's able to do that really well because I also
Yeah,
saw the original ending and she kind of does it like it's a different scream, but she does it in a similar fashion.
yeah. So you hear the struggle, you hear silence, and then you hear slow footsteps coming up the stairs, and then you hear it stop at the top of the stairs. Then you see Mika's body flung at the camera, and it topples over on its side, and then you see Katie standing there, blood all over her shirt. Her very 2006 tank top. I looked like her that year too in 2006. I looked exactly like layered tank tops, jeans, ponytail with the bangs. To a T. That was me. But anyway, yeah, blood all over her shirt. And then she kneels down and kind of like sniffs Mika's body, like, and then looks at the camera, and then she like goes towards the camera, and her face transforms in the very last second, which was, like I mentioned, the teeny tiny one little piece of CGI that Paramount, the whole being with Paramount was enabled them to include in the movie.
And so when I saw the body get flung through the door, dude, it
Mm-hmm.
was so
With
freaky,
force, yeah, that was the I think that was
so unnatural.
the biggest like jump scare for me for that movie.
Oh, of course,
Like the
yeah.
first time I saw it, like yeah.
That was for sure like the best part of the entire movie. And I remember leading up to that scene with like the thuds, right? Coming up the stairs, the slow
Mm-hmm.
walk, leading up to just the big event that happens at the end when Mika's body is thrown. Brenda, while we're in theaters, she was like, "No, I'm done for the rest of this movie." Like covering her eyes, looking down, looking away.
I probably had my ears plugged at that point.
I was like zoned in though because I'm just like, and I think that's how they draw you in is because it's just silent for such a long period of time, and then of course the body hits the camera, and I think this is the only time I've ever yelled something out in theaters because usually I just like tense up and it's like I'm like, huh! But
Yeah, he actually yelled.
I was like, holy shit, like that, like out loud. And I think I was the only one that said something, and so I could hear people like chuckling around me. But I was just like, holy shit.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I was all embarrassed.
It
Yeah, that was
was probably
man,
dark. Nobody knew it was you.
that was wild.
Yeah, it was one wild ride of a movie.
The way that they end the movie too with like the text and everything, because you know how they were playing this up to be like some sort of like found footage, by law
Yeah,
enforcement, and they're using this as evidence. So the text was explaining that the police officers kind of investigated the house not long after, and they found
yeah. Well,
Mika's
they found his
body.
body 3 days later. Yeah, I want to say 3 days later, and then Katie's whereabouts were unknown.
So Katie is still out there
Still
somewhere.
out there.
And I remember after watching this, I heard so many people talking like, did this actually happen? Like, is this real? Is this based off of true events? Like,
I know. Is Katie out there?
uh-huh. And I think that's exactly what they were going for with this.
Yeah,
Like they wanted to
yeah,
be like, I don't know if is this like a snuff film? Like, I don't know. Did this really happen? Did people really die?
yeah. So it was very effective.
It was a trippy movie for sure. And I felt like hands down way better than Blair Witch Project. But
Yeah.
there are people out there that are, they if something comes after and it's not the original idea, then people kind of hate on it, even if it's done better. And I don't necessarily agree with that. So sure, I give props to Blair Witch for pioneering this style, but they didn't do it the best.
No.
And there's been, in my opinion, way better movies since then. So this being one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the theatrical ending. So I wanted to just run through the original ending and the second alternate ending, I guess we'll call it.
I think they included it on the DVD or something, but you're gonna post links to these, right? I think that you could probably find them.
Oh,
I'm assuming you can find them online. You're gonna have to post them on the social media.
That's why you got to follow us, because we're always posting stuff. So the original ending it's similar to the theatrical ending. Katie goes downstairs, she screams, Mika charges downstairs. There's the struggle, and they go silent. But then Katie returns to the bedroom alone with a kitchen knife and blood on her shirt, and she sits down next to the bed and just rocks back and forth all night in a catatonic state. So she's like just staring forward or like staring at the ground or something, and she's just like not moving, just rocking back and forth, but she's not like going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it like fast forwards for a while. Katie's friend calls, leaves a voicemail or a message on the answer machine. Fast forwards some more. The friend actually shows up.
Oh, the friend shows up. Oh yeah,
yeah. The friend shows up. She sees Mika's body downstairs, I guess, and so she screams, leaves. You assume she calls the police. They show up, and they're like investigating in the middle of the night. And they see there's like a light that like turns on. I think it's like one of the bedrooms or the upstairs hallway closet. And so they start going upstairs, and they're like, "This the police?" Like come out with their hands up type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Katie is still in the bedroom, just rocking back and forth, and the cops eventually see her. And once they see her, she snaps out of it, and she's just like, "Oh my god, what's going on? Where's Mika?" And she's like freaking out. And so she like walks towards the officers, and they have their flashlights in her face. So she's like, she's kind of disoriented. She doesn't know like what's going on, and she still has the knife in her hand. She doesn't even realize it. And I think there's like a sound or like a door slams behind them, and they accidentally shoot her because they're startled. Yeah. And then so that's how that ends. There's like text that I think it says the film was dedicated to the memory of Katie and Mika.
Oh yeah.
Kind of playing off of their deaths.
Yeah.
And the second alternate ending is after killing Mika off screen. Katie comes upstairs, similar to the original ending, and Katie walks. A knife, right? Katie walks into the bedroom, shuts the door behind her. Then she walks right up to the camera, like really close to it, and slices her throat open. And so she kills herself. The thing with this though is like, this is obviously non-canon because the sequels kind of reveal that Katie is still alive and possessed. But it was just like a freaky like.
I think it was just ending. The idea, like another idea that they toyed with or whatever. And so
exactly,
since they went with the other one where she disappeared, they could use her later.
Yeah, and I'm not going to spoil the other movies because we're only talking about this one.
And definitely, if they would have gone with the throat slicing ending, you would have assumed that it wasn't Katie killing herself. It was the demon finally taking her out. You know?
I think even the ending text tries to play off of the idea that the cops, they found Mika's body and then Katie's whereabouts are still unknown. So it's like she slices her throat, kills herself, but then I guess she survives that, which I don't know. I was like, that's kind of dumb. Like I like when they don't explain as much, it's just like something crazy happens and then it's like you don't know where it goes from there. It's kind of a ambiguous ending. So I felt like the theatrical ending was the best one.
I agree. It was the creepiest because, again, like, it made it seem like, people wondered like, oh, could that be real? Like, is there a Katie out there, being all possessed and creepy and should pop up at any moment and kill us or whatever? But
like, who are we to be so important that she would come hunt us down? But you still kind of had that thought in the back of your mind, like, what if like Katie shows up, and she's like standing over me with a knife or something?
Yeah.
That is a wrap, folks. If you made it to the end of our podcast, then you unknowingly reached out to a demon and will be getting a special visitor tonight while you're sleeping.
That's creepy.
Any final thoughts or closing comments?
Disclaimer, we cannot be held responsible for any actual demon contact that anybody encounters tonight. Thank you very much.
Or can we? Ooh. Maybe we're all part of it.
I'm not getting sued over demons.
It's like The Ring. Like when you watch the video, you're like, you're locked in now. So it's like once you listen to this podcast all the way through, now you're a target.
Yeah.
And all this weird, crazy shit starts happening.
Sorry, guys.
A Ouija board just shows up randomly in your living room.
And then catches fire.
Yeah. Still to this day, man, Paranormal Activity it's like one of the movies that I just love going back to just every couple years.
I hadn't seen it in a long time, so I enjoyed watching it again.
Did you get nauseous watching this movie? Like, since it's kind of
No,
found footage,
not this
or
one. No,
no? Okay.
not this one. Never made me nauseous, not once.
I just really dig the found footage style, and if done right,
I know you
then
like it.
yeah, I feel like it's like really immersive, and I love that point of view as well. Like
Yeah,
where you're seeing the one of the characters' perspectives, and I just feel like that makes it seem like you're part of the film itself. You're not just watching someone else go through this, but you're like in it with them.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I feel like that's a lot of fun.
What other found footage films are there? I mean, we mentioned Blair Witch, obviously. This one, I guess the other paranormals would count. Yeah, Paranormal 2 with the security cameras, and 3 with the really old, video cassette handheld cameras from like the 70s or whatever. And then
They redid Blair Witch Project. They did the
did they really?
remake.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if it's a remake
Uh,
or a reboot or a sequel or what, but they redid it.
okay. And then what else?
Um,
District 9 was one of them, wasn't it?
yeah, there's found footage scenes in it. I think it's mostly the
Okay.
beginning part,
Okay.
but yeah, I would still count part of District 9. And there's been some zombie movies like Wreck that have done this, where they're kind of trapped
Okay.
in this building, and you kind of see it from the point of view, the night vision of like a camera.
Got it. Like a
Yeah,
GoPro or something.
sort of. Yeah, stuff like that, which is actually pretty good.
If this podcast inspired anybody to check out more found footage films, that's a short list.
There you go. And you know what? Shout out to Katie and Mika, even though, like you said, they didn't really do much after the series. But yeah, I felt like they did a great job for being like brand new
They did,
talent,
yeah.
unknown actors.
Mika did literally nothing besides the paranormal films and any associated content that he may have created.
Hmm.
But Katie's done a thing here and there. She did a few
Oh,
more
she
things.
has.
Like I think she did something before and a couple things after, kind of thing. Like she was in some episode of a show,
Mm,
kind of thing.
yeah, I
That
think you're
was pretty
right.
much it, though. Yeah.
Can you think of similar situations where there's a super popular movie or TV show or something, but then after that was done, the actors pretty much did nothing else?
Harry Potter. Just kidding.
I have a few. Yeah, actually, Harry Potter is on my list that I made. Twilight. I feel like besides Robert Pattinson,
And
not
Kristen
really a
Stewart.
whole lot with the
Robert
actors.
Pattinson's done a lot, and Kristen Stewart's obviously done.
A few,
She
yeah.
does a lot. Oh, what's her face? That played the friend.
Whose friend? Oh, Anna Kendrick.
Yeah, I was gonna say Anna Kendrick.
Yeah,
She's
that's
done a
right.
ton.
Man, I feel like she's actually like her and Robert Pattinson did the most
Yeah,
after Twilight. That's crazy.
yeah.
Wow. I also had Dexter, Grey's Anatomy, and Game of Thrones. I
That's
feel like
true.
all of those people just kind of fell off once that was over.
I agree. Yeah, I know that a few of them here and there have done things like the guy who played Tyrion has done a few things, and he was in like X-Men, and he was in was it one of the MCU movies? Was it Guardians or something, or one of the last Thor? I don't know.
He was the like space dwarf or something.
Yeah, and like the Forge, he was at the Forge.
Yeah.
He forged the new hammer, or
Uh-huh.
his new axe. His axe.
That's kind of an oxymoron. He's like a giant dwarf.
Some people here and there that did other things after those things, but yeah, not a lot. Not a lot.
And also wanted to address that I know that there's a lot of people that shit on this movie, and it's because they probably like rented it on like Vudu or something. They watched it during the middle of the day on like a whatever TV, no sound system. Probably had like a bunch of distractions around at the same time, and they're just like, "This movie is
Couldn't fully
boring." There's
enjoy it.
there's
Yeah,
nothing going on, because you have to be in this like really quiet setting for it to like really start making sense to you. Like for
yeah.
you to really enjoy it. I feel like that's why the movie theater experience was like the optimal experience to see this movie.
I agree.
And I feel like that goes with any movie. If you see that in that setting at home, it's like middle of the day, you're like not really paying attention, you're like cooking or something while watching
Yeah,
TV, like you're not really gonna enjoy it.
I think that's a lot of. I think most, if not all, movies though, the movie theater setting is the optimal setting. It creates this kind of magic that you can't recreate anywhere else.
Yeah,
No
definitely.
movie ever has quite the impact that it does in the movie theater.
But it's kind of sad
Go back to the
because
theaters, people.
exactly. But the thing is, like at this point now, like In your situation, what's it like going to the movie theater or like trying to go to the movie theater? It's like damn near impossible, right?
Yeah. I mean, part of it, I guess, a lot of people stopped going because of the pandemic, obviously. And, still to this day, I mean, be safe and all that. But I personally, I don't know, maybe because I finally got COVID, yay. And I survived. So now I'm like, okay, I can kind of go back out into the world. I'm more or less immune for a month or two now. So I would like to go to the theater, but I've got 18,000 kids, so
Yep. And that's the thing. It's like people always bring up the fact that it's so expensive, and a lot of people now, I think they're so used to not going to the theater. I wonder if it's kind of a generational thing though as well. Like, do you think your kids will be super into movies and like going
I
to the
don't
movie theater?
know. I don't know. Maybe if we can show them the magic of the movie theater, then maybe. I mean, everything's on streaming nowadays, but
Mm-hmm.
like I said, there's nothing like the magic of the movie theater.
Yeah. And I mean, there's even more premium experiences as well if you seek it out. So if you ever want like the sickest, dopest movie theater experience, go to iPick. Something equivalent to that wherever
Is
you
that
are.
one of the 4D theaters where
No, it's not even 4D, but it's like,
it's just
man,
the food service?
this was probably the first theater I had ever experienced where they brought you food, like they served you
Mm-hmm.
food. This was before all the other theaters started adopting that. This was also the first theater that I had ever seen reserved seating, which was that was
Yeah,
like unheard of back in the day.
I know. I remember.
You kind of just bought a ticket and hoped that there would be a seat.
And I remember when they started doing reserve seating, I was like, what do they think this is? And I was all pissed and stuff. And now it's just the norm, and I like it, because you never have to wait in line. You're always going to be
Oh,
guaranteed.
I love it.
You'll know from the beginning, like you'll either be guaranteed your seat, or you don't. You already know from the get go that you're not getting a seat. So you
Exactly.
don't have to show up, wait in line, and then find out the theater's full.
I never once complained because it's not like they charge you extra to reserve or anything. It was only positives. There was no negative to that. So yeah, I pick in Pasadena. If you ever are interested, it is kind of pricey, but man, this thing it's like the whole experience. Like it's underground, so you have to take a
Oh
couple
wow.
escalators down, and then the landing is like this nightclub thing. So it's like a
Oh
bar lounge type of setting, and super chill. It's beautiful. You can like get your drinks or whatever. Not to mention, this is the first time I'd ever seen alcoholic drinks in a movie theater, so that was
yeah,
another
that's
thing. And so the person,
pioneered all that.
yeah, the person will like whoever kind of like takes your ticket at the front, they will like walk you to your seat.
Like a hostess, yeah, like they walk you to your table at a
They like
restaurant.
escort you straight up, and they like, if you have any questions, if you tell them it's your first time, they'll explain everything to you. They're like, yeah, like we recommend that you show up a little early so you can kind of like just take in
Order.
the vibe and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
have some drinks or whatever. And this place is only reserved seating. I don't really think you can just show up.
Yeah.
Afflixionados podcast is available on all major podcast streaming services, including Stitcher, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. New episodes drop on the first Saturday of each month, 5 a.m. Pacific.
Again, when nobody in their right mind will be awake on a Saturday morning.
I'm thinking about the East Coast folks over here.
But that's true. But it will be waiting for you when you wake up.
That's what I like about it. Is like I wake up, episode is ready to go. You
Yeah.
don't even have to wait for it.
I usually have my notification every first Saturday of each month.
There you go. Thank you so much to all the listeners out there for joining Stephanie and I. This has been Afflixionados Podcast, episode 17, Paranormal Activity, and we'll see you all next time.
Woo!
Yay!